Identity migration. What could be more interesting than migrate from one identity provider to other in the already well-written web API services project? This is exactly what I'm going to do right now. We already have some kind of project and we need to migrate it to a new identity. Technologies used in this demo is .Dotnet, web APIs, Nginx, YARP, Azure, identity, Entra ID, some other identity provider, and obviously everything is hosted and wrapped into Docker. So let me present the simple application we have right now. We have a user opens web browser for a front end, and this front end basically talks to two systems: identity system with a user's storage in order to verify user, and then products web API in order to get list of products from its own storage. If I try to make a demo here on a local host, this is our front end. In order to get list of product, we need to authenticate ourselves, obtain an access token, and get list of products. Here are products. If we check token generated by our identity server, we can see that this is something what we created for our user, which saved in our database with the groups and roles we decided to assign to that user. Okay, so the whole purpose of this task is to get rid of our own identity management at all. We don't want to authenticate, we don't want to save users, so store users. And with that, our products system is, let's say, frozen. Maybe it's used by some other consumers. We're not able to modify anything at the products API. So our products API should automatically start working with a new identity. If I try to present the system in a little bit more details, we have a web browser and we have a front end. Front end consists of Nginx server, which hosts user interface and proxies calls to the backend. At the backend side, we have load balancer for a couple of our APIs, and we have our own self-written identity management system. So this is what we have right now. The purpose is to switch from self-written identity to the something what is like well-known standard like Azure Entra ID, without responsibility of storage of the users and without responsibility of generating tokens and doing all the magic for the user verification. Once again, we do not have an access to our products API, and we cannot modify. We, for example, cannot say that API should trust couple identities or something like that. So these guys are frozen, and we're not going to modify like products API services. So what can we do? First of all, at our front end, we can add something what's called Azure MSAL front-end authentication. For that, I can sign in. I will be redirected to my Azure provided front end to do authentication. Then I need to grab my test account in my Azure ID, verify myself, and obtain some kind of identity data for my new user. here we have, let's check what we are provided from the, from the identity system. I will sign in once again in order to see what Azure gave us. We have ID token. Let's see what's in it. ID token issued by Microsoft for my user. This is email of my user. Also provided by the obviously refresh token for silent refresh, and with an access token. Which has something like, where it is, like a scope, API, API access. This is something what I set. In my Azure, I have my app registration, and this app registration exposes an API and also provides API access scope for that API. So all of this is given me by the Azure. But now, how can I say to my APIs to trust new identity token? For that, our load balancer, which is implemented with the YARP, could be a little bit smarter. So let's go to demo. Let's prove that it does not work right now. So if I try to get products, this is an API call with Azure ID and access tokens, which obviously are not trusted by the products API. Okay, let's tune our load balancer. First of all, in the YARP configuration, we say that our products cluster should use authorization policy. Then what we are going to do is uncomment our own middleware in order to do some kind of verifications. We don't do any right now except throwing 401. Next we uncomment use authentication in authorization, and please stop doing what you're doing. Then we add our services configurations with authentication and Microsoft Identity Web API configuration. And what we also do is to transform via YARP our identity token into something what is trusted by the web APIs. Let's start all of the composition right now. And talking about composition, let me show you, it's all hosted in Docker. We have our front end, we have our identity API and identity SQL database. We have our products database with 3 products web APIs, and we also have a monitoring tool which helps us to understand what's going on inside the internals of this distributed composition. So let's see if it started, and yes, it is. What I will do, I will So let me open our front end once again, sign in with test user account. And when I try to call products API right now, we will see that products successfully delivered to our front end. In the request header, we do see that we use Azure authentication tokens. Here is a token issued by Microsoft for my test user. Let's check all the magic. So our YARP service in the transform pipeline checks the identity token from Azure and also API access scope in the identity token, and then it generates access token for old products API. Here we from original token get data like subject and some other claims. We can build absolutely any list of claims we need. We encode a token in a way like our products API expects, and we do this token lifetime to live really short amount of time, like 5 minutes in this case, in order to keep everything quick and simple and do not expose any long-living tokens. So once again, our new composition, if I try to log in with old user login flow, it will not work, just because our load balancer doesn't trust anything except API calls with Azure ID and access tokens. Let's wait for the response. Of course, get rid of the breakpoint. Yep. I don't know how good this system is. We didn't touch anything in the product API. We successfully migrated from old identity to Entra ID identity. Our new API structure looks like this. So in the old flow, we have front end, our own IAM and our load balancer, where we just get a token and use this token in the products API. In the new flow, the same moving parts, except our load balancer become a little bit smarter. First of all, it's protected with Azure API authentication, and also it generates short-lived access tokens for the old products API in order to get list of products. Let's move this composition to production and see how it works in real life. Thanks.